Good evening, councillors. Good evening, staff members, and welcome to our guests. We'll begin our meeting tonight with an acknowledgement of country. We would like to acknowledge the Ngadjuri and the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the land and waters of the Lake Regional Council area. We pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. Do we have any apologies, councillors? No apologies, no leave of absence, no. Oh, pardon me, we do have one apology from Councillor Phillips Ryder. We have no leave of absence and no non-attendance. We move on to confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of the ordinary meeting of council held Tuesday the 28th of November 2023 to be confirmed as a true and correct record of that meeting. Are there any questions, councillors? If not, can I have someone move that recommendation? Councillor Collin, someone second that? Councillor Allison, any discussion or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? The motion's carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on to the communications, and today I had the good fortune to attend the reburial of the Kaurna people at Evanston. It was a very moving sort of ceremony, which is the third time this has happened. The Kaurna Wangaratta nation come from in that very district, and they've got a very large area of the cemetery there set aside, and they've had two previous reburials, and they'll have one more to complete the project. These people have mainly come from the grounds of the University of South Australia, but it was an excellent ceremony. It showed a spirit of reconciliation, and it showed an empathy for what had happened in the past, and they're moving on, and they're moving on in the way that they do. So I've just really felt quite gratification just being there. Last night on a different note, and I don't know if we've got that image anywhere, Corey. I had the good fortune of once again presenting the Merrill Awards at the Kapunda High School. I think I probably bored everyone to tears talking about the Kapunda High School and its merits, but 60 young students graduated from there last night again. And to a student, they were a credit to their school and a credit to their parents, and well done to the teachers. These two young lads, Phoenix Fram on my right-hand side, and Phoenix Cooper, pardon me, and I'll get that right. Phoenix Fram on my right and Cooper Bliss on my left were the two students who received the awards last night. Both very different in their outlook and very different students, but both very skilled in their schoolwork, and I think they'll do very well in their future. Also, we had yesterday we had a meeting with the member for Frome, Penny Pratt, in Auburn. Penny has put together an economic development forum, which includes 7 mayors and 7 CEOs. And yesterday, 7 mayors and 7 CEOs turned up. It was a talk fest to a large extent, but it gave us an opportunity to put things on the table that we think are important to our particular councils. And it was good to cross-reference a lot of things that are important to us here and the common denominator across other councils as well, and to see if there's something can be put in place to try and rectify these things. We understand when members of parliament in opposition, they can only really advocate for the situations, but it was a really healthy opportunity to debate some of the matters that were there and look at experiences from other council regions. And the meeting went on a lot longer than I thought it would, but it was very valuable, and it's going to happen twice a year, once pre-budget and once after the budget, so we can hopefully measure some outcomes or whatever might happen, And I think MP Pratt is committed to doing what she can, but she's going to have 7 mayors and 7 CEOs to answer to if nothing happens. So we'll see what happens from there. But I was pleased we were there, and I thank Richard very much for his contribution to that meeting. I thought he was by far the outstanding CEO of the meeting yesterday. The Legalis group is a group of 15 councils, as you're aware, councillors, and we're members of that. I'm vice president of that. For many years, I think we've been sitting there looking at the Legalis Charter, beginning with its name, and I think there's been concerns about that from the beginning as to what Legalis is and what does it stand for and why. Well, there's been a lot of work being done in the last few months, and there's a new charter to be adopted very shortly, which includes a name change, not before time in my view, and I think most others' view. Legalis will be in future the Northern York Local Government Association, which is far more appropriate to a local government association, because that's what they are. And the Legalis will be a thing of the past. Its objectives and its aims will be much the same, of course, and its membership will be the same. 15 councils. It's a very strong advocate group. So I think we need to get behind what's happening there, as we always have been, and see if we can't get a few more outcomes. That's probably enough from me, councillors. Are there any councillors who would like to report on anything that's happening in their patch? Thanks, Councillor Allison.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. I just wanted to make note that I attended the William Lakes Gawler Christmas pageant. That's a couple weeks ago now. And I was just making comment because I was surprised to see that William Lakes, who are within our council area, are sponsoring a very large event, and it was a very large event. There was a lot of people there in Gawler, and look, it's up to them, I suppose, who they sponsor, but it would be lovely if they would have looked maybe at Freeling for their Christmas pageant. So I just wanted to make note of that I did go to it. I know it's not in our council area, but William Lakes are in our council area. So, yeah.
No, well done, Councillor Allison. Thanks for that. That's an interesting concept to have a commercial organisation sponsoring a Christmas parade or street party. No reason why it shouldn't happen here. Well done.
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Lynn.
the Freeling party didn't go ahead because of the weather, and they had a meeting last night and they decided that they're not going to do anything for 12 months, and they will give their money that they got, the 15,000, back to council, and they'll have it next Christmas. That's what they've decided. So I wasn't at that meeting. That was just the committee that did that. So and they'll give the op shop their money back too. So Kapunda hopefully will have a good one.
Friday evening.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Lynn. Councillor Lynn, any further comments or questions? All right, and we'll move on, councillors. 4.2 is a request for documents or correspondence to be tabled. Do we have any requests for Councillor Simon?
Yes, if I can request to have the letter tabled that the chair of the Soldiers Memorial Hall in Roseworthy, the committee for that hall, sent to us. I previously sent it to all elected members so they're aware of it. And the reason for that being is that I'd like to move a motion afterwards, a motion without notice, to support what they're doing on that. So if you can table those documents, that'd be great.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. Look, I think we could table the document, and with the leave of the meeting, we could bring the matter 17 forward, and you can put your motion now.
Yes, I mean, I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah,
it seems pretty reasonable. Happy with that, councillors? We move that way. The letter, Richard, is where? With the letter from the letter will be tabled. Yep. Oh, it's coming up here, is it? I see.
if I can bring up that motion, and it should be on the screens.
Yes, certainly, councillor Simon.
Soon,
Please,
then I
please do it
might
if you
just
want.
read it.
Yeah.
And then I can speak to it as well. So, I mean, as everybody would have had time, hopefully, to read that letter from the Roseworthy Soldiers Memorial Hall Committee. And I mean, they're the last civic building really standing in Roseworthy. There used to be a church there. There used to be railway stations and associated buildings. There used to be a big general store. There used to be pub, like an old pub. The new one's still there, but this is really the last thing standing. And I think we're building a brand new town called Roseworthy, or Roseworthy Township Extension. And I think it'd be really good, according to our motto of respecting the past and building a sustainable future, to just give that hall a bit more recognition and try to support it a bit better as we have. I mean, the committee has been working for countless years and doing a really good job to keep that hall preserved and in use, and it does get frequently used, as the letter points out. The second thing is that we're actually going to have the pleasure to have the Australia Day celebrations next year at that hall. So I think it's timely to put that hall a bit more on the map. I'm not sure if everybody's aware of where that hall is and what that hall is, and if they've seen it before, but that would just only prove that it needs to be promoted a bit more, because I think everybody should know about it. It's an important old building, and it's built to in memory of all the fallen soldiers from that area. So the motion reads that council receive and note the letter from the chair of the Roseworthy Soldiers Memorial Hall Committee. Notes that the Council Australia Day celebration for 2024 will be held at the Roseworthy Soldiers Memorial Hall, and then receive a report at the January general meeting investigating opportunities for collaboration with the Roseworthy Soldier Memorial Hall Committee, and make recommendations on how council can best provide the support they are seeking. And I'd like to move that motion.
Thanks, councillor. Would you like to, you spoke to the motion, would you like to speak to that?
Early days with the hall, we used to go and we actually did help them with fixing cracks and things like that, because it's not owned by council, it's owned by the community, but they needed help. And we provided a bit with the car parking as well, because it needed more car parking. So that's why I would second it, because they're a really good band of people that work hard and don't get much recognition from council.
Well, I commend Councillor Simon for raising this. I mean, we've had an Australia Day ceremony at the Roseworthy Hall in the past, many years ago now, of course. We've done that. And I think that if council members around this table here would be aware the early Roseworthy public meetings on the Roseworthy development, all held in that little hall. So it has a great history, and it's got a history to this council as well. So I think this is a very good motion. Thank you for putting that motion. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Speak against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, Councillor Simon, and thanks, councillors. We move on now to our deputations and presentations, and a good friend of mine is here tonight to provide a deputation, or a presentation, pardon me, on the matter at Greenock of the Centenary Park upgrade. So I welcome Trudy Robinson, and we look forward to hearing what you've got to say. Thank you, Trudy.
So for anyone who doesn't know me, hi, I'm Trudy Robinson, a local Greenock resident and former Greenock business owner, and I thank you for the opportunity to present my deputation to council today. I also wish to thank those of you who are joining this meeting online. I shall make a point of reading my notes so as not to become distracted or off topic. I wish to talk of the Greenock Centenary Park, working out what I do here, northeastern corner landscape upgrade on behalf of interested community members. For those who have not had the, do I point that where? For those who have not had the opportunity of recently visiting Greenock Centenary Park, up until today, this has been the state of the native tree removal site for about 2 months. Only just today, the remaining tree stumps have been felled to the ground. Oops. I wish to bring attention to the many community members who unfortunately were unaware of plans to remove native trees in the Greenock Centenary Park, plus those who became aware and raised their concerns via a petition. Many people in our community are still uninformed regarding the circumstances surrounding the decision, but as time evolves, more people are becoming aware and are interested in being informed and consulted in redevelopment plans for the future landscape upgrade. Being just a regular resident, I have only recently become aware of the Local Government Association of South Australia's Community Engagement Handbook, which clearly indicates guidelines as to the process of inform, consult, involve and collaborate with communities. Community engagement is about involving communities in decision-making processes, which is critical in the successful development of acceptable policies and sustainable decisions in government, the private sector and the community. Levels of engagement are described as follows: inform, one-way communication, providing balanced and objective information to assist understanding about something that is going to happen or has happened. Consult, two-way communications designed to obtain public feedback about ideas on rationale, alternatives and proposals to inform decision-making. Involve, facilitating active participation by stakeholders designed to help identify issues and views from a diverse range of perspectives so that concerns and aspirations are understood and considered throughout a decision-making process. Collaborate, working together in partnership to determine how to develop understanding of all issues and interests as stakeholders work out alternatives and identify preferred solutions to support the process of decision-making. I would like to acknowledge under the Local Government Act 1999, it empowers an elected council in South Australia to make policy, strategic and budget decisions except where delegated to staff, a committee or a subsidiary, but delegations for decision-making cannot be made to the public. The following definition of empower has been developed for the handbook: empower, providing opportunities and resources for communities to directly contribute to solutions by valuing local talents and skills and acknowledging their capacity to be decision makers in their own lives. Under the community empowerment model supported by Light Regional Council in regards to the Greenock Centenary Park Committee, and in light of the community engagement framework, it would seem appropriate for the committee to inform and consult with the local community, especially in consideration of major developments and subsequent irreversible impacting decisions being made for the Greenock Park. Considering the park constitution states that an object of the association is to foster the development of the park for the benefit, use and enjoyment of residents of the council area, local sporting clubs and hirers of the facilities on the land for and on behalf of the council, surely it would also seem appropriate that the park minutes of meetings should be transparent and made available to the community, just as are council meetings, minutes of meetings. I would assume council is familiar with the public consultation policy, model policy, and so I shall just read a few notes. The council is committed to open, accountable and responsive decision making, which is informed by effective communication and consultation between the council and the community. In carrying out its consultation process, the council applies the following principles. Members of the community have a right to be informed about issues affecting their area and their lives and to influence council's decisions about these. Community interest will vary depending on the issue and the number of people affected, and council's level of consultation will reflect this. Community involvement in council decision making should result in greater confidence in the council and responsive decision making. Council decision making will be open, transparent and accountable. Under the policy statement, the council must set out the steps that the council will follow in cases where the Local Government Act requires consultation on a matter, And in addition, under the Local Government Act, the Council has the following obligations where it is required by law to follow its public consultation policy. Council must provide interested persons with a reasonable opportunity to make submissions regarding relevant matters. Council must publish a notice in a newspaper circulating in the area and on the Council's website describing the matter under consideration, and invite interested persons to make submissions within a period, which must be at least 21 days, stated in the notice. Council must consider any submission received from the public during the prescribed consultation period. There are specified consultation requirements. Under the Local Government Act, Council is required to undertake particular types or levels of consultation as a minimum in relation to the following, of which one item relating to this situation is proposing to remove trees. It is to be noted that other consultation and engagement methods may include publication in a regular newsletter, letters to residents and other stakeholders, other direct mail publications or letterbox drops as appropriate, advertising in media outlets as deemed appropriate, media releases to appropriate media outlets and community groups, community forums and stakeholder meetings, direct consultation with community representative groups, active and passive use of Council's website and social media, use of a community email database, customer services surveys, fixed displays, e.g. community notice boards, community group representations to council workshops. Considering Light Regional Council's vision, mission and values, which includes respecting the past, partnering with our community and sustainably creating our future, also to be regarded that as an exemplary council that puts the people of Light first while creating a place that is also welcoming to visitors, and as a council will be guided at all times by foundation values of respect, honesty, integrity and transparency, showing high performance leadership, having a constant awareness of the community they serve, and need to be viable. I'll just go to and to focus on achieving positive environmental, social and governance outcomes from council's activities. So I would expect to witness these values expressing how the council operates, lives, breathes and expresses itself through its daily duties. I would like to take this opportunity to recognise the amazing quantity of dedicated people who are passionate about our Greenock community and community connections, and who may be involved in assorted committees and groups within our village. I also wish to acknowledge the dedication and contributions of the Greenock Park Committee, and also the positive benefits and contributions of the Greenock Schlungers Cricket Club to our community. But most of all, I would like to recognise the importance of supporting all of these people and their community connections through proactive informing and consultation within our Greenock community. Valuing and respecting community grows passion, community connection and engagement from community, which in turn increases levels of interest, productivity and sustainability, which has the ability of continued organic growth, supporting a rich, diverse future for our special and unique Greenock village. Whilst it's not possible to go back and save these mature native trees and the established native habitat they once provided, with the commitment of Light Regional Council to their values of respect, honesty, integrity and transparency, and being aware of the community they serve, by actively informing, consulting, involving and collaborating with the local community in the future stages of the landscape upgrade, let us hope that we have an opportunity to look forward to council, committee and community coming together in a process of healing damage caused within our special and unique village community connections, of which the unfortunate management of this decision has been responsible for. I do thank you for your consideration, and I do wish you all a Merry Christmas. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Trudy. Councillors, are there any questions at this point? Councillor Simon,
If I can make a comment.
certainly.
I mean, thank you very much for your presentation and for your passion and for pointing out all these things. I just want to point out that we are in the process. So we do have a community engagement strategy that's written in, that we have. Unfortunately, that's been it's out of date really. It's run out in 2022, and there's been some structural issues why we haven't renewed it, but I can guarantee you that we will take on board all those things that you said, because I think you pointed out some really good things, and the LGA, recommendations how to best engage with the community. And I think we're going to try to do that and build that into our new strategy. So thank you very much for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Simon. I'd support that. I think that's fair. And thank you for bringing these matters to our attention as well. I think it's in our best interest to know what other people are thinking, but can assure you that there will be a newsletter distributed through Greenock probably sometime in January, which will spell out what's been planned for that portion of the park and the improvements that will take place there. And hopefully that will satisfy a lot of people down there that perhaps don't know what's going on at the moment. And we've empowered the park committee to get on with the job, and we support their track record of doing just that. You've reminded us very much of our own values and the Act and so forth, and we appreciate that. But we'll be doing our best to ensure that people are informed as best we can possibly manage. But we do still support the activities and the management of that Parks Committee, and I don't think we'll walk away from that. But Judy, you have a genuine passion for your community, for your people, and you do a mighty job, and we really respect that and appreciate that. But at this stage, of course, we can't unscramble the egg, but we can learn from our mistakes if any have been made. And if people think we've made mistakes, we'll listen and do better in the future. So thank you for your presentation tonight, and I look forward to seeing
Thank
you
you.
and talking to you in
I
the future.
would hope that there would be some form of consultation, not just informing of the community as part of the process. That's what I'd really hope for our community. So that's what I'm presenting today too. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, that'll certainly be the consideration of the council. That's for certain, and the
Very
Parks Committee, no doubt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trudy. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on now to our action items. Our process has generally been numbering the page, and if there's any questions on that page to put your light on. We begin on page 6, councillors. I think they're page 7.
Page 6.
Yeah, certainly, Councillor Peter.
The Oldham Street project. Latest info is on the 5th of December, 2 allotments remaining, and one remaining allotment has been marketed through an agent as a house and land package through a builder. Now, I wonder, could we be informed of the details of that?
Thank you, Councillor Peter. Megan, thank you.
Through the chair, the agent has let me know that he's got contact with 2 different builders. I believe one might be Hickenbotham and one might be Sterling Homes, who are both marketing the property as house and land package.
Thank you, Megan. Any further questions on page 7, councillors? Or questions on page 7, I should say? If not, we'll move to page 8. Anything on page 8? Councillor Collins?
Just about the railway, I see DIP unable to do anything, but I see there's a council-led approach will be feasible. Like, is that for a lease, or we're going to be the lessee, or how are we going to lead that?
On page 8, Councillor Collins? Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, through the chair. So that was really just going back to DIP, just to clarify, whilst they aren't looking to assign any budget to explore a boundary realignment to sort of carve off the Goodshed part of the property. I've gone back to ask the question, well, if council were to lead that process on behalf of DIT, would they entertain it? So I'm not suggesting that council would do that, but I've just asked the question if that makes sense. So the fees and charges involved to survey and go through a DA process to realign the boundaries, essentially what I'm asking, if they would be happy for council to lead that process, if council indeed would entertain that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Corin.
That would
Corin?
also have to be done with the owner though, wouldn't it? Like they would have to release the land for us to then have the boundary realignment.
Any further questions on page 8, councillors? Not page 9?
Yes.
Councillor Peter.
The historic Angle Vale Bridge, where it is proposed, as I read it, to construct a bridge for pedestrian use. And it seems to me as though it's going to be an enormously expensive project. I know we're partnering with Playford Council, but it seemed to me as though if it's going to be a pedestrian bridge, that on the side of the existing road bridge, an outrigger bridge could be made at reasonable cost, which would fulfill the function. Now, we're not made of money. I think we have to think economically on this.
That's a fair question, councillor Peter. I might pass over to Megan, might be able to provide some background on that. Or is it always at this stage in the hands of the Playford Council? Excuse me? Oh, sorry.
Mr Mayor, Councillor Peter brought this up, exactly the same comment at the last meeting.
You did.
And it's still in the same situation. Playford's working out, and really, we've got to have a pedestrian bridge there. The other options on top of pipes, it just doesn't work. We've got to have a pedestrian bridge there. And it's, we've both allocated funds on. It's going to be, I would assume it's going to be a lot less than the original funding to do it. So we'll hope so. So I think it'd be a lot cheaper than the 400,000 or whatever. We were 600,000, was it? But it was, we were looking at originally, it's going to be a lot less than that. So I think it's a good option.
Oh, thanks, councillor. You happy with that, councillor Peter?
Yes, I think so.
I think at some stage it might be of value to us to sort of get an update from Playford just to see quite where they are at this particular point. I think you raised a good point.
Well, the bridge, the old bridge abutments are still there. But it's a fair span, and the old wooden bridge was of massive construction, and I think it's unrealistic to think that we're going to, in some sense, duplicate that as a pedestrian and bicycle bridge.
Interesting to see where it is exactly up to. Thank you, councillor Peter. Anything further on page? Yours is the same question, councillor Ellison. Thank you. We move to page, I think we're on page 9 still. Any further questions there? No. Move to page 10. I noticed up the top under notes in the very first item, under 15.11.203, the CGD GP allocations possess signed documents in a PLI. What's a PLI? Has anyone got any idea? Is it? Yeah, perhaps I'm just old fashioned. I'm struggling with some of these acronyms at times. There's no sort of column to show what they are, and it you can sit there for quite some time trying to work it around in your head what it is, what it means. Anyway, that's just an aside. Any questions on that page?
Councillor, Mayor Bill, the dog attack just 3 months ago. Just wondering what's happening there, Craig.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Bill, and through the chair. Documentation, the website material has been prepared. We're just finessing it effectively. We've had some legal input to it, so we're just going through a process of just making sure that the language used is accessible enough, if that makes sense. So that should be available, I'm hoping before Christmas, so we're very close. The second part of that was looking at a potential counselling option as well. I'm just getting a bit more data around what that might look like so I can bring a report back to council in terms of likely costs. So it's still progressing. I admit it's taking just a little bit longer than we anticipated.
Thanks very much, Craig. Thanks, Councillor Bill. Any further questions? Page 10. Move on to page 11. Nothing there, councillors. We move on from our recommendations committees, nil and nil. So we move on to section 11 of our council agenda, which is the strategy and economic development reports. And I commend both Craig and Kyron for this body of work. There's a lot of information in there, and obviously it leads to a lot of questions also, which are okay to ask, of course. But I would ask that we don't get into too much discussion at this particular point. Ask a question by all means and look for an answer. But I don't think we want to discuss these matters in too much in detail at this particular point. But I'll be led by the council's feelings on that. I don't know quite how to deal with this, whether than we just go through it page by page again, or do you have any preferable method of dealing with this, councillors? Would you be comfortable with? Yeah, well, perhaps we could ask questions from page 13. Do you want to do page at a time, or do we go do the whole lot? All right. We're opening up for questions on the strategy and economic development reports. Councillor Collins. Certainly.
I find it the report a bit confused for me. There are two. The strategy and economic development, obviously, they're mixed together. I find it, I would have preferred if they were separated, and then maybe the manager of each of the departments actually put themselves in a position to answer the questions. And I think that was when the committees were disbanded. I think Michael was the one who suggested that when this was to be done, that was how it would be, a report from each manager and then questions to be asked, rather than having this seems to me not very organised in the way it's delivered. The other point I'd make is when you're saying you met the minister, I don't quite think that's, or who met the minister? And then hosted sites, who hosted it? I think it'd be, for my information, I would mind knowing who met with the minister. Just I think that should be explained to us. Attended the business, right? So attended, to me, there's not quite enough detail in just simple things like that. But I've got a few questions I'll ask as well.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Collins. My comment also was at our pre-briefing that I found it hard to determine where one stopped and one started. I think that was a little bit tricky, but we can learn from that pretty easily and take that one on. I think that's a fair comment. I don't know if anyone else felt the same way. It was a bit difficult there. And that's all due respect to the officers. I think they meant well. They're just getting on with it and doing it. But to try and work it out, who to ask the question to can be difficult unless you're really concentrating on who wrote it. Councillors, are there any questions at all or any comments in relation to this? Any further comments? Councillor Simon?
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I saw the share Councillor Collins' comments about there's so much information in there, and I would have lots and lots of questions about it because things are just sort of hinted at and stuff I've never heard of and all this sort of stuff. But as I've sort of been told with no uncertain terms previously, that I probably shouldn't ask too many questions. Now, just coming back to those meetings with those different people, we do get the status. Is is the meeting. We don't know who met with these people, and then we have the comments, risks, or opportunities. First thing, just starting with the first one, it says the minister clarified government funding pathways for projects of this nature. So that sounds really good, but I still don't know what those are. I'd be really interested in knowing what those pathways for projects of this nature would be. So do we have, are we going to get some funding or not, for example? So that would be one question, but not.
Yeah, sometimes it's a bit of a line in the sand too, isn't it? Where we get involved as operational matters and as strategic matters, and our role is policy and strategy, I guess. And we've got to leave the operational matters to the staff members, and that's perhaps the reason why they haven't put some of those names to meetings, etc., because it's more of an operational matter. But I take the point. I think it's fair, and I think both council officers, they might like to comment, maybe on why it was done this way, Byron or Craig, or I know it was seeing it in the best interest of the council and a way to do it, but was there any express reason it was done this way?
I'm happy to lead there, and must profess this is the first time I've authored one of these reports. I was on leave, I think, when Craig did the last one, so I was largely following the format of the previous report 2 months ago. So, and I didn't have the benefit of getting any feedback from elected members to sort of drive the direction around this one. But I think as managers, we're trying to strike that balance of providing enough information to the council so that they can ask questions of us, pick up the phone, give us a call if they want to know more information, but also being efficient with our time. And when we can provide more in-depth information on each item, and yeah, we're sort of just trying to strike that balance of what's beneficial to report up to the council and what we can deal with just through questioning outside of a meeting. So look, I've struck the balance that you see before you in my sort of professional opinion. So that's essentially where I've landed to make the best use of my time.
Thank you, Corin. I think, do we sort of understand where Corin was coming from there in terms of, excuse me?
Well, actually, I mean, the question was, because we were talking about there's some funding streams, and the minister clarified government funding pathways. I'd just be interested in what those pathways are. So I actually quite like your reporting, and I don't mind at all that it's quite concise and the way you split it up. I actually think it's very good. The only thing is it leads to a lot of questioning, and I've been told I shouldn't be questioning, so I'm really confused because I assume, and maybe that's a completely wrong assumption, but if I got 30 questions about this, it must be that other people would have questions as well. So that's, I just don't know how to go about all this information that I'm reading, and I've come up with all these questions, and how do I get this information? I can't call up you personally, and then I'm the only one that's privy to these, to the answers to these questions, where I think is the public can see this, everybody can see this. I think there's, in my opinion, yeah, there could be more information. I really don't know. I'm just struggling how to go about it. But I can tell you, I would have heaps of questions. One is, yeah, what are those funding streams? The next one is talks about delays experience in the construction industry. Like, what can we do about it? Why are they there? How long has this been going on? Why haven't we planned for it? I mean, there's endless stuff that I could be asking about, but yeah, I don't want to do that. So I'm just
thank you, Simon.
balance as you do.
I think what the council officers are endeavouring to do is just give us an overview of where they're up to with many of these things. And of course, they're going to lead to questions, there's no doubt. But I think also that we can ask questions outside the council meeting. So if there's something there, you think, well, I'd like to know a bit more about that, give them a call. I think that's the way to. Sorry, Councillor Dean.
Mayor Bill, I'd like to make a suggestion. I think some of the items here are probably, in my view, operational and trivial. And having so many items obscures the important ones. So what I suggest that we do is limit the items to those that are of significant interest, important and non-operational to councils, and give more detail for those. And that would give a more concise report that's got in depth about things that are important and the things that are less important, that are mainly operational. we don't need to know about.
That's a fair comment. Thanks, councillor Dean. Anyone in support of that, that type of action? Councillor Lynn, anything you'd like to comment on that? Well, I can only ask the CEO to perhaps talk to the council officers involved and maybe have a bit of a session and talk about it and see if we can't streamline it a little bit. That seems to be, I understand, the feeling of the meeting.
Mayor Bill, just another comment. This reporting system was put in place with the abolition of the Section 41 committees.
That's correct.
And therefore, if it's an important thing that comes to the Section 41 committee, that's the sort of thing that ought to be in here. If it's a trivial matter that's operational, it doesn't need to be.
That's right. When we had our committees, we will all be aware that a lot of reports like this would have been at those committees and there would have been outcomes and recommendations from there which would come to the council. But instead, we've distilled all of those committees into one big report, and we're trying to deal with it. I think that might be simplistic, but I think that's probably where we're up to. The committees have become one, and now we're dealing with the whole lot as we go. And even the minor matters are still being discussed at a council level, where before they were discussed at a committee level, and only brought it to council if they were removed from the recommendation box. So that the committee's had a lot going for them. Anyway, is there further questions, Councillor Collin?
Yeah, I just got some questions. So the dental surgery in the main street and the fitness centre, is that we're just doing the whole thing? That's, don't we know? So I've just got questions about that.
Fitness centre. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd just like to know, so how's the dental surgery progressed in the fitness centre, if that's, are they both progressing or they
What
I know the
page is that
dental
on,
one,
Councillor
so-
Collin? What page is that on here?
Yeah, through the chair, what I probably can say is that our case management of both the investment leads we have on those are ongoing. So still progressing, but yeah, some haven't reached milestones such as development approvals as yet. So yeah, still work in progress.
Colin, just one question. The building at the top of the street, there seems to be some infrastructure being building inside that building where the dentist is going one end. That infrastructure the other end. Do you know what that's about? A series of small shops or was it have any information on that? No. No, it's quite curious. Someone's doing something. That's right. Now it looks like it might be a series of small shops.
Sorry, I think Anthony might be able to assist.
Oh, thank you, Anthony.
In relation to that.
Oh, thank you. Just in regards to the dental surgery, that does have a consent from the development point of view. So if it's that side of the building, that might be this work that you're starting to see take place inside that building. In regards to I guess if you're standing in the street facing it, the left-hand side of the building, while we've had some discussions with some residents or business people in regards to using that side of the building, we haven't received an application at this point in time to facilitate a future use on that side.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. I think the confusion is, I think a lot of people thought that the dentist was going to be at this end and the construction's going on at that end. And that's probably where the mix-up is. So that the dentist is going in where the construction is. Thank you. That solved that problem. Thank you. Councillor Collins?
The only reason I asked was because the fitness centre was the main sticking point for them was the car parking. So
yep.
I think they were told they had to pay 60,000 for the car park. So I think, and now we've moved the motion from last week. I was wondering whether the economic development had actually made an approach to them to see if we could make an arrangement with them so they didn't have to pay as much car parking fund money. That was all.
Yeah, the car parking fund, my understanding is that's being reviewed at present, isn't it, with an offset scheme?
There was a motion, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a resolution last week.
That's where we're up to,
Yeah,
I
so,
think, at the
yeah,
moment.
but that was to give economic development the power to talk to people to see if they can come to an arrangement, wasn't it? That's how I understood it. Or if in the future, so that's after the report comes. But have these people been told that that's the case? The other question I had was just about the Roseworthy water scheme. I see the milestones haven't been reached. I was just wondering what's happening with that.
I think Warren might be best placed to answer that.
Yep, through the chair. So we do have a milestone due this Friday. We have been working with both PIRSA and the National Water Grid Authority to amend that to extend it. We haven't had a response, a formal response as yet, but the visit to site that we had at the start of November was quite positive. So we're not expecting there's going to be any issues, but we still haven't had formal notification of our variation request at this point in time.
Thank you, Corin. Further questions, councillors? Councillor
Yeah,
Bill?
mine's about the Hewitt Centre there, Mr Mayor. Just noticed they're experiencing cost increases. Is that going to come through at the budget papers? We're going to hear about that, their planning, or is there any comments at the moment?
Yeah, so through the chair, yeah, I expect it will come through the budget process. We've been working through it, identifying where some of those cost escalations have come through and how that's eventuated, and looking at some strategies going forward to mitigate any further. But the reporting processes on that will probably come into the early part of next year. So I think we'll bring it through budget review is the expectation.
Yes, thank you, Craig. Further questions, councillors? Councillor Simon?
Yes, just following from the questions about the Roseworthy water scheme. So there's a risk involved that we might not get an extension of the milestone that we request, and then you do point out what these risks might be or the consequences of that. And one of those says that we have to manage stormwater volumes on site for longer in the interim. Now, as most of you will be aware, with this rain, we had some more flooding at Towards Road. So would that just extend that sort of situation? I mean, to manage that longer, does that mean we're going to have to fix up Towards Road more often, all this sort of stuff? So to me, there seems to be some cost implication in that. Is that a fair assessment?
Thanks, Corin.
Through the chair, I guess those sorts of cost implications wouldn't be borne by council. So with a partnership with landowners and developers, they're obliged to retain stormwater on site. The clearances that they've had to date rely on stormwater management plans where they do indeed manage the stormwater on their site. So they're not yet connected to the scheme. That's currently in construction. So if that takes longer, they just still need to comply with their on-site stormwater retention management plans.
If I can have a follow-up question, because just my worry was that we had some contractual agreement then that we will take the stormwater at a certain day, but that's obviously not the case. So we can take 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year to do our bit, and they just have to do their bit until we are ready, sort of thing.
So through the chair, I guess the agreements have clauses like best endeavours to meet certain dates, but they're subject to change, which in this case, certainly we've had delays. So yeah, it's a best endeavours clause, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Corin. Further questions, councillors? Councillor Collins?
Yeah, just about the sports strategy. I see we've got a consultant, Inside Edge. What are they actually consulting on? Are they looking at new labels, or because I know Kapunda needs a new label? Is that something they're looking at, or?
Page number, Col. Page 25, councillors. Find that one.
Yeah, through the chair. So the scope of that open space sport and rec study was quite broad. So it's certainly not at the detailed level that explicitly costs up upgrades on a particular site. At this point in time, it was essentially an audit of looking at benchmarks. So for certain population sizes, how much open space should be provided, and the level of service provided by different recreational type assets. So quite at the high level, looks at it, building out a hierarchy of levels of service based upon different population sizes. They also took inputs from the community through surveys, but also meetings to ascertain from the community what they desire from in particular sites. So there's certainly recommendations at this point relating to each site on what upgrades might be desired by the community. So that'll all come into a draft report that council will consider.
Thank you, Corin. I have just a quick question, if I may, on page 24, right down the bottom. Grant-funded initiative. It takes a village pilot program. Could someone give me a little bit more on that? It suggests here that pilot program has been completed with more than 360 participants involved. Evaluation of the program underway. The final report and acquittal provided to the LGA on the 24th of the 11th to conclude this project. I can't recall the project.
Mr. Mayor, Pepper will be able to give us an.
Oh, thank you, Pepper. It's probably just silly me, but I don't remember this project at all.
Through the chair, so the It Takes a Village project was the pilot project that we did in Kapunda with the early childhood and early development results. So we had some family fun days, and we got that grant funded through partnership with the LGA and the education department. So pilot project in the sense that we tried to see whether we can look to replicate that in other parts of council there as well. So, but yeah, had some really good turnout and good connections made between different service providers as well.
Thank you, Pepper. I only did that because I wanted to compliment you on getting the
That's
results.
what I thought.
Well done.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, you don't never go to the library, do you?
Further questions, councillors, on any of these pages? Councillor Allison?
Page 24, thanks, through the chair. Illegal dumping. I just wondered if there's any sort of update on that. Just over the weekend, in a 2-hour period, I noticed from driving on Wardbelt Road, going one way and then coming back about 2 hours later, somebody decided to offload all their old tyres, which is what I picked up on here, and they've put them over the white road, the white posts. They're not really posts now because they flop over with the little red reflector on. And as I came along Wingate, turned onto Wardbelt, every few hundred metres, there was a stack of tyres up on the white road reflector area. So I was just wondering if that's what you were referring to in that, if somebody's indicated more.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Allison. And in short, yes. There's been a spike, and it's an increasing problem, it's probably fair to say, that is requiring commitment of a lot of time from both Brandon, his team, and elements of Megan's team to follow up and investigate where they can, based on witness statements or other photographic evidence or whatnot. But then also to deal with the actual retrieval and then the proper disposal. Difficult, as you can probably imagine, to both investigate and pursue. It is consuming a fair bit of resourcing that was not anticipated at this point.
It seems like it's going to be an ongoing issue, this illegal dumping, and particularly tyres.
Yeah.
Not sure what we can do about that, but it's probably worth thinking about.
Well, it's just noted me that it was like during the day. It was like 10 o'clock, and then I think I came back about midday, and they weren't there, and then they were there because they were everywhere, and I'm there. And that road's pretty busy now because it's sealed, so they were pretty brazen. But all the other rubbish on the end of Wingate, somebody decided to go through all the bags, so they've ripped them open to have a look what's in some of the rubbish that was left there, but and then it's all over the road, and yeah, it's not good. So I don't know, that's going to be a long-term issue, I think.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it to our attention, Councillor Ali. Councillor Peter?
Page 25,
Mhm.
Kapunda Historic Mine Site in situ recovery proposal.
Mhm.
The status text talks about an addendum at the beginning of last year, and I mean, yes, this year rather, for a waiver of extension agreement for a 12-month extension to allow additional time to undertake its test proposal. Now, how long is it going to go on? And comments. The more recently, council received a request from Enviro Copper to allow it to widen the gate entrance to the property adjacent to East Terrace. Well, we're talking about two different things here. How much longer are Enviro Copper Limited going to persist with their testing?
So I can give you an update on that, Councillor Peter. They finally received approval from the relevant department, which took 2.5 years to start this test, and they've now started it. So it'll be as long as, I think it's about 3 months or something like that test. But because it's a new process and because the department was short of relevant and trained people, the approval process was an absolute nightmare. That's caused the delay. And now that they've actually got on site, it should proceed fairly rapidly, I believe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dean. It's a good update. Certainly, Craig.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Dean and Councillor Peter. So, yeah, just to, I guess, bring it back to the agenda, we received word around the same time as the agenda was being pulled together of some of the documentation related to this is required as part of the waiver of agreement. So there are a couple of things that are still outstanding that aren't too far away, I understand, but it's coming together in terms of the test proposal being able to take place. In terms of the gate reference there, that was related to the part of the site that Enviro were looking to access, but it's been linked in with a development application and some work down there from what I understood in terms of the proposals that we're looking at the tourism side of things and the application that's been progressing there, and I think that's been held up for some further information. Is that correct? No, okay. It's been finalised, has it? Oh, okay. No problems. Yeah.
Thank you, Craig. Any further questions there, councillors, or clarification? No? We might move on. And we've got page 26 to go. Is there anything on there, councillors?
I'll move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Beale. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. I'm a little bit confused here. It's tricky. Talk about that, right? Now we're moving on now, councillors' reports for information. Now we've got a fine report from, as usual, from Councillor from Nigel Graves, our Business and Finance Manager, on rate revenue variation. Any questions in relation to this matter, councillors? Councillor Simon?
I do have a question. I just wondered, it says that the original budget was based on a separate rates declaration of 900,000 for the financial year. So that's the original budget for the for this year, for the 23-24 financial year. So the assumption that we're going to get the full 900,000, and it sort of explains it in there, is that the project be operational at 30th of June, which is almost 6 months ago. So how's it possible? How's that possible? Obviously, by May or whatever, when their budget was made, when we sort of delivered the budget, we could have clearly foreseen that it wouldn't be finished by then. And then the next thing is then, okay, we say it's going to be finished by the end of the calendar year. But again, we probably could have foreseen that. So I just wondered how we didn't foresee that and why that is.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Simon. I might pass over to Nigel. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, man, Bill. Firstly, probably what requires clarifying is that in terms of separate rates, you only get one opportunity to declare that rate. We can't come back partway through the year and say, oh, well, we've got 6 months to go, we're going to declare a separate rate. So the separate rate was declared at the full amount that's in the agreement, which is 900,000. So that was on the revenue side. At the same time, the budget assumed that operations wouldn't happen until halfway through the year. So in the discretionary rate rebate budget, it assumed 450,000. So the net amount of money we're going to get at that time is 450. But because the project won't be operational this year, it's likely that there'll be no money coming. So it'll be a full 900,000 discretionary rebate. Hope that makes sense. I should say that doesn't change the total amount of money you're going to receive from the scheme. It just delays it. So there's a timing issue.
It changes this year's budget.
Certainly changes this year's budget and the assumptions underlying that. But the total amount of money received from the project will go into the year following the end of the agreement date. So you'll get more money in that year in the future.
Thank you, Nigel. Councillor.
If I can clarify. So I fully understand what you just explained, obviously, but the question wasn't really how that works. The question was that at the point that 900,000 was declared, and as you said, you have to declare the full thing, that would have been around what, May of 2023, is that correct? So that means at that point, we would have had to assume to declare a 900,000 rate that only 2 will be operational by the end of that financial year. And it must have been obvious that that's not the case. So that's my question. So how do we declare a rate by clearly knowing that it's not going to happen? That's sort of the question.
Through the chair, yeah. So the delays being experienced have been. We've been made aware of them after the budget was set, essentially. So, in the crux of it is that Bunyip Water are having difficulties getting civil contractors to bid for the work due to the industry issues across the board. I guess based upon past experience, they would have had contractors engaged and the work delivered. So their project program, it did indeed at budget time, have work substantially completed in accordance with what was in the budget. They've had significant delays since that time. So that's sort of what we're working through with these variations at the moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyron. Anything further, councillors? If not, we'll move on to our next matter, is 12.2 is a Roseworthy expansion section 138 clearance update. And I thank Lisa Sapio in particular. It's a great body of work, and it's obviously fairly good news at the end of it all as well. So thank you. If you could pass that on, thanks, Craig, to Lisa. It's an excellent document. Are there any questions, councillors? A good update, that's certain, and it's all good news. We move on now to 12.3. There's a review of financial outcomes. Again, Nigel's report, and thank you for that. Are there any questions, councillors? Oh, Councillor Simon.
Just one question. It says at Hall and Equipment Hire, it says the reason why we have less income than expected is properties no longer receiving rental income. So I'm just wondering which properties they are that we don't receive income from that we expected we would.
I don't know who can answer that. Can you answer that? Yeah, thank you, Megan.
Through the chair, council own two properties, Hill Street and across the road here, that were rental properties. They're no longer receiving a rent income.
Thank you, Megan. Any further councillors? Oh, councillor Collins.
That's on table one. I see it says income that wasn't anticipated when budget was approved. That's line 3. So is that 60 grand? Is that right? And then income that wasn't appreciated is 7, which is private works was at 240. Why wasn't that anticipated?
No, through you, Chair, those sorts of private works projects are pretty ad hoc. So it'll be years where they don't occur. So that's just something that's arisen that we weren't aware of at the time when the budget was set. And I'd have to defer that to Megan as well, I think.
Thank you, Megan.
Through the chair, I'll give you an example of Power Road at Freeling, where council upgraded that road, but at the cost of the developer. So that's a private works.
So council provide the work and charge the contractor or the developer, pardon me.
Correct.
Right.
Further questions, councillors? If not, I have a recommendation on the screen up top there. Someone like to move that way? Councillor Dean, someone like to second that? Councillor Simon, are there any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. And now we're into reports for decision. Land management agreement on 2021 Hanson Street and 7 Cherry Street, Freeling. And thank you, Anthony, for this excellent report and excellent news in lots of respects as well, with Wheatfields continuing to expand and provide that very valuable service they do to the Freeling community. Are there any questions, councillors, in relation to this report? There's a series of recommendations on page 38. Has everyone had a good chance to read this report and what it means? Thanks, Councillor Lynn. Would you like to speak to it?
They've been waiting MMA to be put in place and now they can get, I'm sorry. They've been waiting quite a while for this to go through, and now it's through. The committee on there going to get going with it, and it's the land that's opposite the Wheatfields. That is, they needed it to get the car parking facilities.
Thank you, Councillor Lynn. Councillor Simon?
I'm happy to second that.
Thanks, Councillor Simon. Are there any further discussion or comments, councillors? Would you like to speak to that, Simon, Councillor Simon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Wheatfields is obviously a cherished sort of asset for Freeling, and it's a great thing that they can expand and do that. So yeah, I'm fully support what they're doing, and it's time. Yeah, good.
Thank you for that. We have a recommendation up on the screen. Oh, Councillor Collins, I'll comment.
Oh, not really. I've just got a question. I understand what we're doing. So the main reason it's coming to a vote here is to make sure that the car park is registered, so then they can't use the land for anything else in the future. That's our role as elected body. That's basically what we're voting on, is it?
I asked Tony if you could address that one for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, just so everyone is aware that the existing site at 21 Hanson Street does have some car parking, as part of the proposal to expand the site, they'll lose all the car parking. Hence the reason why 7 Cherry Street at the moment has got a proposal to have that car parking. They need to link, or we need to link that car parking with the land use of the supported accommodation. So effectively, one day, if you couldn't have the Wheatfield site using its site as supported accommodation without the car park. So it basically guarantees that what will be now known as 9 Cherry Street will always be a car park, while Wheatfields is there doing the property, doing the land use as it is now.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, so the reason that we got to vote on it, I'm normally planning things, you need us to vote on it to make it law. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so the decision in front of you now is, the recommendation in front of you now is to ensure that the land management agreement is what keeps the properties linked together. So they're now then placed on the certificates of titles.
Can I just add to that, Mayor Bill?
Yeah,
Sorry, just to assist as well. I think Councillor Collins asking if that's a planning matter, why does it have to come here?
No, I understand.
Oh, right.
That's the way I was saying, but
Yeah.
I can see now because the agreement's locking it up, we have to actually.
Yeah.
We have to vote on it fast.
Yeah, the other element, the other element I just wanted to touch on is that the LMA has to be signed under common seal, and that has to be a council resolution. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Tony, for that. I think we're fairly clear on this matter. We've got a mover and a seconder. I might take the vote now. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. That's some good news for Freeling for sure. The Kapunda swimming pool, another excellent report, and I regard it as good news as well. Any questions or comments, councillors? Would someone like to have a recommendation on top of the screen? Would someone like to move that recommendation? Thanks, Councillor Dean. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Dean? Someone like to second this recommendation? Oh, thank you, Councillor Lynn. Would you like to speak to it?
Tells you exactly what, so.
Councillor Conley, I'll just make a comment.
Yeah, it worries me the amount of money that like $80,000 seems like a lot of money to me to spend to keep the pool open. I'm not sure the usage of the pool, but I was wondering, has it ever been put out to tender, like, or any local people given the opportunity to run it? Or the reason we're using a contractor like this is because they can supply the staff for lifeguards and things like that. But for 80,000 for the amount this pool's used, it does seem a lot of money to me.
Yeah, I think if you say it quick, it's not so bad, but you're quite right. But to get this level of service, I think that's probably the industry rate at this stage. And Belgravia do tend to have a pretty good reputation of managing this type of facility, and they manage the pool in the Barossa Valley also. It's regrettable that it comes down to this point of lifeguards in particular being the issue, and the volunteers in many cases have done the right thing, but many of them aren't lifeguards. So it's either you make a decision what you're going to do for the future. One of the things that appealed to me recently was CEO Richard and myself were at Balaclava, and their pool there, they were going to pull it apart because it was leaking rather badly. But instead of doing that, the community got behind it, and they've renovated that pool, and it's absolutely brilliant. To the point where now there was a 90-year-old gentleman that had to stop swimming in that pool because he couldn't get out or get in. They've put those facilities in there and have done all that. So they've expanded that to include a lot of other play things, I suppose you might call them, or incentives for people to use it. And I'd like to sort of see that this might happen to our pool here, because it'd be a very sad day when we lose it. Tanunda lost theirs, and they've turned it into a tennis court. Well, that's good for them, but the people in town now don't have a pool, and the kids don't have a place to swim, which is rather sad, I think. But Newry, I was a very big part of that pool when it was first built. And the community said to the council, there's no way you're going to close it. And they've kept it open through just people power, because it was a community pool in the first place. But the council, in a very similar situation we're in now, said we can't afford to keep it open.
I have a lot of faith in Belgravia because they handle these pools all over Australia.
That's right.
Yes, and I have had quite a bit to do with them through the farm, and I
I think we've got the opportunity now to expand on the pool itself and its activities. Once you've got good management in place, you can expand the activities that happen there, because you can concentrate on what you're going to do at the pool rather than having to manage the pool all the time and keep all those things up to scratch. So we've got a good opportunity here.
I have another question. Colin just said it's only open for 4 months. Is that going to continue?
Well, I mean, that's probably up to the council in the long term. If solar panels and all those sorts of innovative things that are used these days to keep pools open longer, who knows? And
Question. How many months is it going to?
Through the chair, I understand Justin, who's been managing the project, he's been working with Belgravia because we have got some new pool heating to actually extend the swimming season, particularly for lap swimming. I think lap swimmers aren't too fussed about how hot it might be when they go swimming at 6 o'clock in the morning. Having the pool open for 4 months, though, we're actually looking for consistency of being open and the timeframes for the public, rather than previously if a volunteer or if a lifeguard wasn't available, then the pool was actually shut. And that was usually with little notice to the community. Having Belgravia do this because they also operate the Rex and the Newry pool, they've got staff that can cover the Kapunda pool as well if there's someone that's not available.
I think then we get the volunteers doing different things, doing the activities at the pool rather than trying to manage the pool. They can get other things, volleyball and all sorts of things. There's a big expansive area there, as you can see by the maps in there. It's a lovely spot. And it would be a terrible shame to see it go.
Mr. Mayor, just a question: is the contract a yearly contract, or what's the arrangement with Belgravia?
Yeah, thanks, Megan.
The current arrangement is for when the pool is open. So what that is, I think it's generally from November they'll open until, let's say, April. So it is actually a bit longer than 3 to 4 months. We need to then ascertain if the pool needs to be managed during the winter period. So that would be to keep the filters running and that sort of, just making sure everything's running okay, keeps the pool in good condition.
So it's currently just
It's currently seasonal. So let's say 6 months of the year.
Councillor Simon?
So just to clarify that means during the winter period, whether there's still been maintenance and everything, Belgravia is not going to do anything about it. We're going to have to do that.
In the past, we've had council staff who have qualifications and experience go and have a look at that, but they aren't always available because there is a course that they need to do. And we're not always upskilling our staff in that respect to a pool operator's certificate. Belgravia Leisure have staff who have that as well, not just lifeguard certificates. So it is something that we're working through at the moment because the current swimming pool committee are looking to wind up.
Councillor Simon?
Can I clarify that yet again, because I still don't understand. So that means, is that on top of the $80,000 for the summer season? Then we're going to have them to make extra money to maintain it during the winter season, or is that included in that contract that has been signed already?
Through the chair, I'll take that one on notice. Get back to you.
Anything further, councillors? I'll have a recommendation up on the screen. Would someone like to move that way? I have a move by councillor Dean and councillor. Any further comments or questions or opinions, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on. Changes to the 2023-24 Capital Works Program. Jason's not here tonight. Jason's the author of this particular report. Would anyone like to ask a question or make a comment in relation to this report? Receive the report and endorse the amendments to the Capital Works Program. Councillor Collins? Yep, thank you. Was someone? You don't want to? I didn't quite catch that comment because okay.
No, it is just a recommendation, so I would suggest if you want to move something that is not the recommendation, you just move a motion that you want to move. So if you wanted to say that council received this report, but you want to change it to action, it's not an amendment, it's just what motion, because there's no motion on the table. So you would just move what you wanted to move.
This is just to receive this report.
I think councillor Dean has now moved it.
You've moved it, councillor Dean?
Yes.
Like to speak to it?
No.
Would someone like to second this motion? Councillor Lynn, like to second that? Like to speak to the motion? To receive the report and endorse the recommendations of this Capital Works Program. Councillor Collins?
So I'd like to make an amendment. That's the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
Could you turn your microphone on? Thanks, Colin.
Sorry, I'd like to add another road first. So there's a road, what was it? Yeah, Flagstaff Hill Road, which has been, everyone's got some correspondence from a landholder who is having a lot of trouble getting up and down that road, and it got washed away 2 weeks ago. It's got no metal on it at all. It's dangerous. It's the only crossover of the range for a long way. If there's a fire or any emergency up there, I don't think emergency service would be able to get up and down with the fire trucks the size they are these days safely. So I think that it really needs to be done from top to bottom. And I've spoken to Megan about this and made my opinion clear quite strongly for a couple of weeks now. But I'd like to add that road if people would agree.
How long is the road, Councillor Collins?
Oh, the road's quite long, but I'm not from bottom to the top of the hill. I think it's about 1.7 kilometres, 1.3. Well, it's, yeah, depending how much of the sections you want to do. But the problem is where at the worst parts of it, it is down to bedrock, and council have been ignoring the road a little bit in anticipation of the Twin Creek wind farm. So they were hoping that the developer would have done this work, but because the wind farm was meant to be complete in 2020, and here we are in 2023, and it's not even, looks like it's a long way in the horizon. So I think that we need to do something quite urgently, in my opinion. So I'd like to add that to the list.
Okay. So the motion is up there that says that we receive this report and endorse the amendments. So this would be an amendment.
Well, I think it's about 1.3 kilometres from various parts.
Yeah. We just need to get the wording right, I think, on there. Kari, could you give us a hand with that?
I've got a question. How much is it going to cost roughly? About 100,000, would it?
Through the chair, approximately, because of where it's located, there's additional cost for cartage as well, approximately 125,000.
That's through the chair. Yeah, can I just ask, is it a category 3? It is.
Category 3 road. If it saves one person's life, it's probably cheap. So the Councillor Collins' amendment is that endorses the amendments including Flagstaff Hill Road. So that's the additional wording on there. Yeah. You okay with that, Richard? Right, that's the amendment to the recommendation, councillors. We're all clear on that? It's just that particular road. And I think Megan made it quite clear that road will be in the vicinity of $125,000. But of course, it's a road that hasn't been touched for many, many years on the basis of a wind farm being proposed. And it's probably not going to be touched for another 25 years if the wind farm doesn't happen. So we've got to make it happen.
We need a second of the amendment.
Right. I need a seconder for the amendment now. And Councillor Ellison there. So I've got a mover and a second. You like to speak to that, Councillor Ellison? No? Any further comments or questions, Councillor Simon?
If I can ask a question, so if you're spending an extra 125 on this road, so is that going to take away from some other road, or where is this money coming from?
Through the chair, it's not taking away from any other roads the way this is worded, because some of the roads have already been brought forward from a future year that's been approved. This is an additional road and there currently is no budget for it.
There's no budget for it at this point, but it is on the program.
I think what Megan's saying is it'll be managed through the overall program, and if there's changes that would need to be made later in the year to the program, then that would be dealt with at that time.
Councillor Simon?
Is that going to severely mess with our program? Is there going to be any issues for seeing? No, so that should be no issues. Done.
Right. I'll put the amendment first, councillors. Would anyone like to speak to that? If not, all those in favour? Those against? The amendment now becomes the motion. Any comments or questions on that, councillors? All quite clear? I need a movement second again. Or we got them? Have we got those? Full recommendations going up on the screen now, councillors. Bit hard to see that from here.
Yep.
We need some vandals to come in with a spray can. If there's nothing more, councillors, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks for the discussion, councillors, and thanks, Megan, for your valuable advice. Appreciate it. We move forward now to 13.4, which is Your Say Your Future Community Works Program update. I can't help, every time I sort of see this Your Say Your Future project items, I can't help feeling so proud of this council in preparing this program. I think it's just brilliant. It's something that's really hopefully going to stick with us for future councils as well. It's just the way it's rolling out as well. It's been a real winner. Are there any questions, councillors? We've got a recommendation about halfway down page 50. No. There's no no correct from Councillor Simon.
I'm happy to move that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. I've got a mover. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor? And Councillor Bill, second that. Would you like to speak to that? Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Councillor Bill. Any further comments or questions? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. And well done, councillors. Our next 13.5 is Regional Development Australia, Barossa Gawler, Light Adelaide Plains, Annual Report and Financial Statements. Rolf, I've been to their chair, was going to come along tonight's council meeting, was unable at the last minute to attend. He's puts his sincere apologies in. But I have a report about halfway down page 56. Are there any questions or comments, councillors? If not, would someone like to move the report, move the recommendations? Councillor Peter, would you like to talk to that, Councillor Peter? No. Someone like to second that? Councillor Lind, like to talk to that, councillor? Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendations. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. And I'm sure we'll make Chairman Wolf very happy. Councillors, now we move into our section now of questions on notice. And we don't have any questions on notice. Questions without notice. Councillor Allison?
Mayor Bill, my favourite topic, Ports Road. I have spoken to Megan about this yesterday. Councillor, Deputy Mayor, that back onto Ports Road and the amount of water that was flooding out of those developments and washing across Ports Road, and it turned into such a mud puddle. Megan actually drove down there last night. I'd been down there, Councillor Deputy Mayor Simon's been down there, and several people from the area been in contact to make complaints about the amount of water that was coming out of William Lakes was the main one. Yes, so I just would like to have some sort of update on what William Lakes are going to do for the water that's coming out of their development, because it's not acceptable. And Ports Road's a very busy road. It's also a school bus road, which I've mentioned previously. It was quite dangerous to drive on there on Saturday. Today it's dried out reasonably well, and once again I've spoken to Megan about the grader to come down there, because there's just nowhere you can drive without hitting massive big potholes. But I just wanted to put that on record.
Thanks very much, Alison. It's a very good summation there as well. I might pass over to Megan, but it might need to be taken on notice, because it's probably going to require some sort of action or actions to make it happen. It seems like it's quite a complex sort of problem that we've got there, and it might even involve the developers as well. Megan, would you be able to just give us a bit of a brief overview of that comment, or Alison's problem? Alison's problem?
Through the chair, I think I'll take that question on notice to get some information back for you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Allison. I think that's fair, and thank you, Megan. I think we've all agree that it's probably something that's going to be a little bit tricky to overcome, but we seem to be doing something about it. That's fair. Motions on notice. Well, we had one. And, we dealt with that earlier. That's the first time that's happened since I've been sitting in this seat. We're bringing a motion on notice forward to that level. Made me nervous. I thought, hang on, what do I do here? But I've got good minders, so it worked. Thank you. Motions without notice, do we have any of those at this point? If not, we can move into a confidential session now, councillors, and quite an exciting one. Oh, okay, yep, sorry, that's right. Before we move into confidential, I must put the recommendation there that council give approval to do just that. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Allison and Councillor Dean would like to speak to that motion. It's pretty straightforward. All those in favour, those against, that's carried. We're in confidential session now, councillors.